I am so glad you could join me here for another video here at Math Rocks with Mr. Cox. This video is going to be all about slope of a line. So we'll look at it from three different perspectives. The first one is, well, what if you're given a graph of a line and some points on there? How would you find the slope? We're also going to look at it as, well, what if you're not given the graph, but you're given just 2 points? And then finally, we're going to look at it, well, what if you're just given an equation? How can you find the slope from that? So if that's something you're interested in finding out more about, stick around. Let's get it on! The first thing you need to know about slope is it's really measured in 2 distinct different qualities. One of those is simply what we call the direction. So I'm going to go ahead and write the word direction right over here. And the direction would be, if it's heading uphill from left to right, that would be considered a positive direction. If we're heading downhill from left to right, that would be considered negative. Also, you can have lines that are completely horizontal. That would have a slope of 0. And you can also have lines sometimes that are straight vertical up and down, and the slope there is what we call undefined. The other thing that slope it talks about is about how steep a line is. So for instance, if I'm looking over here and I know this blue line is a positive slope, and I know this purple line is also a positive slope, but obviously they have a different level of steepness. So for instance, the slope on this one might be, maybe it's approximately 2/3. And maybe over here, this one is steeper, so it might have a slope of, let's say, 2. This one that's green is heading downhill, so it's going to have a negative slope, and it's pretty steep. So over here, on this one, it might be a slope of, say, -3. So once again, slope is going to measure not only direction, but also steepness as well. Next up, first, well, what is slope? How would you actually measure it and come up with some numerical answer for it? The first thing I want to let you know is slope, we abbreviate it with the letter M. And I already know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking to yourself, if it's S-L-O-P-E and there's no M in the word slope, why would somebody abbreviate it with the letter M? And the answer is, no one knows for sure why slope is considered to be M. There's different theories out there on the internet, but really definitively no one knows. But just know usually we're going to say slope is going to be abbreviated by the letter M. I'm going to talk a minute about rise and right, and this is called delta, by the way. Delta is a Greek letter meaning change, so it's also the change in y over the change in x. So if we're looking at these 2 graphs here, the one on the left, it's going uphill, so I already know my slope on this one is going to be a positive number. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick any point. It doesn't really matter. Let's say I pick this one right here, and I'm going to go up, and I'm also going to go to the right. So in other words, I'm looking at my rise and my right to get from one point to the next. And you'll notice we're going a rise of 2, and we're going right 1. And so the way slope is defined is it's rise over right. So it's going to be, in this case, 2 over 1, or you can just abbreviate that as saying m equals 2. So that would be our slope in this case here. If we looked at the one that's over here, well, I'm going to just go ahead and pick this point and go to the point directly to the right of it. So this time I'm going down 1, so I'm going downhill 1, and I'm going to go right 3. So in this case, our slope would be considered, our rise is a -1, and our right is 3. So the slope on this would be considered to be m equals -1 over 3, or -1/3. If you like what you've seen and heard so far, please like, comment, or subscribe. Thank you, and back to the show. It's also possible that instead of being given a graph with a line already drawn, maybe you're just given 2 points. And I'm going to show you 2 different ways of looking at this. One is, go ahead, if you have graph paper, go ahead and graph the 2 points. So -1, 2 would be right here, and 1, 5 would be right over here. And if I went from the point on the left, I know I'm going to be going up 3, so that's my 3 squares, and I'm going right 2. So I could say right now my slope, it's rising 3 and it's going right 2. The other way to do it numerically is we're going to look at the delta y over delta x. And what that means is how much is y changing compared to how much is x changing. So I'm looking at my coordinates, that's x and y, and that's also an x and a y. So if I'm going from 2 to 5, you will notice to get from 2 to 5, we are going up 3. And if we're looking at our x's, if we're going from a -1 to a +1, we're going up 2. And you'll notice 3 over 2, the delta y over the delta x, it's already right here as our slope. So you can actually do this with graph paper, or you can look at it as delta y over delta x. I'm going to reverse it over here. I'm going to do my delta y first. So I'm at 4 and I'm going to 7. So if I'm at 4 going to 7, my slope would be a rise of 3. I'm starting at a 2 for x. I'm going to 3. So going from 2 to 3 would be a gain of 1 or a right of 1. So my slope here is going to be 3. And let's go ahead and let's go to the graph. I have 2 comma 4 would be right here. I have 3 comma 7 would be right here. And just now you can see I'm going up my 3 and I'm going right 1, which corresponds to a slope of 3. And the third way this might be given to you is in the form of an equation like y equals 2x minus 5. And it just so happens anytime you have an equation that's solved for y, the number that's out in front of x, we call it the multiplier. So that is going to be your slope. And this number on the end, the plus, it might be like +5 or -7 or whatever it is. This number over here is going to be considered the y-intercept. So when we're looking at this equation over here, we literally can look at the multiplier for x and say, wow, well, slope is 2. Done. And my y-intercept would be -5, but as a coordinate, anytime we cross the y-axis, it's always going to be 0 comma something. So as a coordinate, it's going to be 0 comma -5. Now, what do you do if it's not solved for y, like this equation right over here? Well, let's solve it for y. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract 6x on both sides. So I'm going to go ahead and run my arrow over here. So now I wind up on the left side, I just wind up with the 2y. And then I'm going to write it as -6x plus 4. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and divide everything by 2. So divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2. So y ends up being -3x plus 2. So now we can say what the actual slope is. It'll be -3. That's the multiplier times x. It's also called the coefficient. And our y-intercept is 2. And as a coordinate, it would be 0, comma 2. So those are the 3 different ways that you can calculate slope, either using the graph, using 2 points, or actually solving for y and then knowing that y equals mx plus b. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you again soon.